guys, welcome back. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about our watch list, stocks we're going to be playing for next week, earnings, and much more. Stay tuned and take a look at our list coming up shortly. But now let's talk about the markets real quick. It's been a very interesting journey so far. On Friday, the markets opened lower. You had a little gap here. Okay, 370 broke out. Let's roll. And nope, we did not. It sold off. And out of nowhere, we just had, I believe it was a 1.8% move, 2% move basically at between 11 to close. It was magical, and we played some of it. We did a lot of plays. I'll cover that later on as well. Stay tuned, guys. But before I do anything else, we'll just hop into the plays and take a look here at what's transpiring. And I made a little list here to make it very easy for you guys to see. You can pause the video, take a look at it. But basically here, we have multiple earnings. And the big report is Google. The reason why Google and not Apple or Amazon is because Google reports first. Okay, this will set the tempo on the market. As in, if Google does really well, then you're going to have names like Apple, Amazon, a bunch of names like that are probably either go up or down depending on how Google reports. If Google does shitty, it doesn't, the whole market might tank with it because it's the first one to report. People will get scared ahead of time and pull out. So it's an important day. That's Tuesday after hours, guys. Whatever contracts we're buying, we want to make sure that it's past that day and cover it, okay? Just to make sure. So now if you want to play on the safe side, you can also wait until Google reports and get a more clear picture. But again, in this market, it doesn't really matter. You can have a day like this and the next day it's clapped. Not much to it, but again, I do have a list here on what's going to be happening here. Intel reports on 10/27, and I took a deep look at this, and I want to cover NVIDIA for this. So 135 calls for NVIDIA, 490, which covers earnings actually. It's 11/16. It covers earnings, and it has a lot of time on it. So the contract's are slightly expensive. So when Intel reports, that's going to be a big mover on semis, and I want to play NVIDIA mainly because next in line is AMD. Before NVIDIA, AMD will report, which gives these contracts a second. Also, the other chance could be that if the market just continues to rise, these contracts could also appreciate in time as well as implied volatility increases. There's many ways you can look at it in aspects of gains and trades, but I like to cover earnings. And third catalyst itself will be just NVIDIA itself. We might just gamble NVIDIA earnings. But again, I don't want to do that. I want to cash out as soon as I can because in this market, it just chops around. Then I have Visa reports on 10/25. So this play is definitely going to be sooner. And we're actually already in these SQ calls. So Square, Block, Payment Processing Company, it's between a category of financials and tech and financial, so it's fintech. And I like it because banks already reported and banks just had a great day, like such as yesterday. I believe JPM had like a massive day. I mean, a 5% day. So I have good feelings on these. Doesn't mean what's going on now might happen later with these. Also, PayPal and other factors as well can come in and just wreck our decision here. But you can either play PayPal, but I chose Square because it's cheaper and the move, it could be more dramatic just because the market cap is much smaller. Now, the big day will be when Amazon and Apple reports. Okay, they report on 10/27. So the way we want to play these, I don't want to play Amazon calls or Apple calls directly because I don't want to risk earnings. And usually what happens with earnings, if you guys are familiar, is even if you're right, the direction's right, theta and implied volatility drops and the move isn't justified big enough to keep the value of these contracts to increase. So I'm deciding not to play them directly. I'm going to play the NASDAQ ETF, which combined with Google, Amazon, and Apple is a combined weight of close to like 10-15%. Now you already had Tesla report, but you also have Microsoft coming up and much more. But I think Google is the biggest driver here because it reports sooner. Now guys, these are the plays. You can get a NASDAQ QQQ 280 call. They're currently at $4. Again, these are covering earnings. Get them at cheaper strike, or I prefer October 31st because they expire on a Monday as well. And what happens is when you have them on a Monday, you have implied volatility. So even if everything goes to shit, you still have a chance over the weekend to make money on it. And because of that, the contracts typically hold much better than contracts that don't have the weekend implied volatility in them. But there's multiple ways you guys can play that and take it out. But again, now what happens if the market goes on the downside, right? If the stocks that are like Google or Intel or Visa, they're just not doing what they're doing. Now, we're in earnings seasons currently. We're in it right now. It started about a week ago. So we're already kind of in it. And we already have a tempo. And the tempo is banks did really well. And now it's tech's turn. So I feel that the market is ready for a bounce. So I look at the downside. It's always smart to be ready, but I don't really think the market is going to collapse here on earnings. I think it's not baked in yet, as in we're getting Q3 earnings, which means that a lot of the inflation data, energy costs, and a lot of the factors with consumers isn't really into this earnings. It is somewhat, but it's from the early on of Q3, it wasn't really heavily as counted as it is now. So numbers might be surprisingly good. It doesn't mean that the market is going to be doing well overall, just in general, like the real estate market and a whole bunch of economic crises going on. But it does indicate that we are in the right pace so far, and I don't want to bet against that. So that's the only reason that I'm only looking at calls here. And if you take a look at our Discord, actually, they make an announcement. I am 6 for 6 for wins, and these are all calls. The only reason I'm mentioning it, I'm not trying to brag here or anything else, but I only play calls. I waited for the market to hit support levels, and we just did them. SPY 365. I played it like 3-4 times this month so far, and they banked 450, 470, 360, 475, 375, and you sold it for 440. We banked on Apple. These are all calls so far. So I'm not going to bet against the trend. I like this where the market does go in the upside and then it drops. I don't want to play the downside. I just want to play one side, and that's the upside, mainly because you are getting these bounces, as you can tell. This is why I'm making money. Just look at this weekly chart. Even on a monthly basis, you can see the market just chops around. Overall trend right now, it's in this area where it's debatable. Tech is the key factor here. All right, guys, so now let's just cover these individual names more independently and kind of get a broader view on why I'm thinking the strikes that I'm thinking at. Anyways, this is a chart from NVIDIA, and as you guys can tell, it's an hourly chart, and you guys can get a decent idea of exactly how the market has been performing with semis. Not too aggressively overwhelming here. It is made in new lows here at 108, has recovered significantly. Again, this is due much about the market bounce. NVIDIA had a really great day here. Let's take a look here. About 2.23% move. Nothing too crazy, nothing too unrealistic here. Could happen, guys. Again, these do have more time. I would say these are the more of the safest calls on there. But again, back to the main event. Google reports, it will affect everybody. So depending on Google does. I'm only right now in SQ, and as the weekend approaches, it's over and we go into Monday, I might open up some more plays. But this is what I'm looking at. And then let's take a look here at Visa. Obviously a giant in the payment processing arena, and again, solid upward movement. They're due for breakouts. Now, if you look at it at a longer chart frame, you can tell that we're definitely below where I would say. So there's a lot of upward moments. So a breakout here definitely could happen, and hopefully whatever Visa does, SQ will do 3 to 4x that move. So if Visa moves 3-4%, then I would hope that SQ moves 15 to 20% on the upside and get these calls in the money and print. And what's next is Amazon and Apple. Now, again, Amazon, let's take a look at Apple real quick. Apple has a much better chart here. As you guys can tell, we did bottom out in June. We did do a nice little recovery, but we got a long way to go. We definitely break out of these levels. 150 is probably where I'm at on Apple, but again, I don't want to play Apple calls. I'm just going to play the NASDAQ, bet on the overall market, and kind of hope from there and see exactly what happens when the reports come out. So I am looking at calls on the NASDAQ, so we are going to be looking at October 31st, 280 calls, and they're currently priced at $4. Again, I have not entered these positions. I probably will enter sometime when the market opens next week, before obviously the big report on Tuesday. That's pretty much it today. I just wanted to cover the watch list, kind of give you guys an idea, just a recap on the portfolio. It is at 4K still. Nothing crazy happened besides Roku going down a little bit more. But again, I completely naked, so when hopefully AMD is already stocked out at whole, so I'd rather just play NVIDIA. But AMD recovers a little bit more before reports, so you can sell some cover calls, and also Roku as well. Roku, I'm okay with because of Netflix. Netflix had these phenomenal earnings numbers, and it did semi-well. The subscription numbers are a blowout, so I'm hoping Roku will climb closer to earnings. But again, guys, that's about it. I'm gonna wrap it up here. I hope everybody enjoys their weekend, and I'll see you guys.